What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Must own running backs. One of my favorite videos each season because I just get to talk about some of my favorite picks, who they are, why I like them. There are going to be some repeat names in the list because in other videos I talk about my favorite sleeper, my favorite this, my favorite that. This video determines my favorite overall picks. 5 running backs I want to leave every draft with. And I've set it up to where you can leave a draft with all of them. So I'm not just going to list off like Saquon, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, because that doesn't help anyone, right? I have done drafts where I've taken all of these picks, and that's why they're in this video. I think that you should be heavily targeting them. Before we start, a reminder about the 2 giveaways. So one is the free year-long all-in access to our website. All you have to do is rate and review the podcast on iTunes or Spotify, and then tweet me a screenshot. The second is the signed jersey giveaway. One random person who has all in on the website will get that. That's thanks to our sponsor, Pristine Auction. Great place to go for any sort of sports memorabilia that you want, especially if you're looking for something for Father's Day. Check them out, and you can use promo code FFA to get, I believe, just like $5 credit on your account. So let's start things off with the stat of the day. Yesterday's stat was which wide receiver had the most third down targets last season. Answer was Cooper Kupp. Don't have a winner yet, recording this one relatively early though. I'm sure someone's going to get it. Today's stat, which wide receiver had at least 20 third down targets, but also had the lowest third down catch rate. So typically not a good sign on that one. All right, who are my must-own running backs? Before we start that, 2 players I'm not going to mention in this video are Alexander Mattison and Mike Boone, but I wanted to bring up this situation because, I don't know, it just happened. It seemed kind of relevant because now maybe Mattison and Boone are fantastic targets. I didn't want to include them just because ADPs have obviously not adjusted, and since this video is pretty heavily dependent on where are they going, right? Like, I don't want Mattison if he's going in the first round, obviously. So I want to give them their ADP enough time to adjust, and then we'll give a take on that. I did drop Dalvin Cook to the running back 9 in the rankings, and I have removed him as a target just because there was already injury concern with him. Now you're going to add in risk he doesn't even play? No. Not someone we're going to be targeting. Someone will draft him in the first 2 rounds, at least right now. We'll see if more news comes out to where it's like, oh, he's definitely holding out. Well, then maybe he'll drop further beyond that. But right now, you're not touching him in drafts, and you should be targeting Mattison and Boone late. I'll lean Mattison, but again, we just need more news. Nothing has come out yet, but don't draft Dalvin Cook anymore. So, who should you draft? First guy is my favorite early round pick, which will be, I guess we'll call like 2nd or 3rd round pick, is Miles Sanders. I have him 5 spots above ECR, 6 spots above ADP, which is a lot for an early 2nd round pick. So if we look at his rookie season, probably couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Finished with over 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, was running back 15 overall. And a lot of you ended up with him because not only did we love him going into drafts, he was also our top trade target like every week during the season because he started off slow. He was only averaging 38% of snaps in week 1 through 9 before playing 78% in weeks 10 through 16, of course getting hurt in week 17. But he was the featured back down the stretch, finishing as a top 7 running back 3 times, averaging 18 points per game. So he was the backup for the first 9 weeks. He got hurt in week 17, and he was still running back 15 overall. So no, I do not care if they bring in a veteran back to back him up. He's going to be in like the upper teens for touches every week. He's going to have high touchdown and reception upside. And I just love his ADP because you can always pair him with another elite running back. That's the perfect way to start a draft. And so Sanders is my number 1 target at the running back position in that 2nd round range. My favorite running back in like the 4th round, if we go a little bit further, 4th, 5th round range, is Jonathan Taylor. I gave my Taylor take a few weeks ago, and I believe actually it was like 2 weeks ago. But there is just not another running back in this range that carries even close to the same upside and floor as Taylor. And that might feel odd to say. You're like, well, how could he have a floor? He's in a timeshare. We need to consider the situation and the talent. We know for a fact that he is either the best or like a top 3 pure running back talent in this draft class. And I would be pretty surprised if someone was going to argue that there's a better running back. If we're going to be completely honest, he's the best running back in this draft class. And now he's playing behind the best run blocking offensive line in football on a team where we're expecting them to score a good amount of touchdowns and to lean run heavy when they get in the red zone. I know Mac is there, and I like Mac as a player, but he is not Jonathan Taylor. They spent significantly more draft capital on Taylor, and anyone paying attention knows that Taylor is the superior running back to Mac. So let's just hope that they keep saying they're going to use both of them as like a 1A and another 1A, even though that's impossible, because that's just going to keep Taylor's ADP in check, right? If they came out and said that Taylor was just going to be the guy, his ADP is going to skyrocket. He had over 2,000 total yards in all 3 seasons at Wisconsin, while averaging over 18 touchdowns per year, boasts a 99th percentile speed score, running a sub 4.40 at over 225 pounds. And people like to make fun of his receiving skills, like, oh, he can't catch. Dude had a 76th percentile target share, and he had a ton more receptions than Melvin Gordon did when he was at Wisconsin. And we know Melvin Gordon is a good receiving back. Taylor is an elite pick, and he's got a fantastic ADP. I just did a draft where I got him as my running back 4 after taking wide receiver. So I got him as my 4th running back after taking a wide receiver as well. That's crazy. I should not be able to get him as my 4th running back. There's way too much upside for that. The best mid-round pick is Kareem Hunt, and Hunt scored 83 fantasy points through his final 8 games last season, which put him on pace to be a low-end running back 2 over a full season. And that's in his first season with the new team after missing half of the year behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. Now he's entering his second season with the Browns in his age 25 season, so right in that range we're looking for these awesome seasons, running behind a much improved offensive line. And also, let's just not forget what Hunt was able to do in his first 2 seasons. I know he was on Kansas City, and they're a fantastic team for running backs, obviously. But as a rookie, he posted nearly 1,800 yards and 11 touchdowns and was on a pace for 1,750 yards and 20 touchdowns in his second season. Then he comes back in 2019, outscores Chubb in 4 out of 8 games in half PPR and 6 out of 8 games in full PPR. So he's a legitimate flex option week 1. Right out of the gate, just makes his ADP too low. If you told me Chubb's playing a full 16 weeks, his ADP is still too low because he's giving you flex upside going way later than he should as a running back giving you those stats. So he's being undervalued if Chubb plays full 16 weeks. But now consider what happens if Chubb goes down. Hunt is a weekly top 3, top 5 running back. You're easily securing a playoff berth. He's setting you up for a championship run. That's in his range of outcomes. And we always want to target players who have that in their range of outcomes in the middle rounds, because we know the drop-off. Once the 4th round hits, I guess once the 4th round's over, into the 5th round, huge drop-off in success rate and picks. So you're only looking for that upside. Don't be drafting players who don't have anything like that in their range of outcomes. So using that logic, can we find another player in like a little bit later, a few rounds later, the mid to late rounds that we like that have that same sort of narrative around them? We can. And his name is J.K. Dobbins. The Ravens drafted him with the 23rd pick in the 2nd round, and he is going to start the season as the direct backup to Mark Ingram week 1. Now, with most teams, that is not really something we want. We don't really want direct backups, but this is the Ravens, and the backup role comes with a decent amount of touches. Gus Edwards had over 130 carries in each of the last 2 seasons, and you're not going to find anyone in the world who thinks that Gus Edwards is better than Dobbins. Dobbins is going to slide right into that role, and he'll be viable in deeper leagues in week 1. And that's not really even why you're drafting Dobbins, right? So in a deep leagues, we'll say 16 teams, you could probably start Dobbins right out of the gates. But you're not drafting him for week 1 because he's not going in a position where you need to. You already have your starting roster filled out when you get to the Dobbins pick. You're drafting him for the upside down the line. If Mark Ingram were to ever get hurt, or if they just decide to shift a little bit more work towards Dobbins to end the season. Because remember, Mark Ingram is turning 31, and while I expect him to be good when they use him, it was pretty clear last season they do not want to overload his touches. So I can't imagine they're going to have a change of heart now that he's a year older this season. So draft Dobbins not for what you're going to get in week 1. Keep him on your bench. And just like with Miles Sanders last season, wait for the breakout because it's going to happen at some point. It's just a matter of when is it going to happen. But you want that upside on your bench. However, if we are talking about the single best late round running back pick, it is Zack Moss, hands down. I want to attack this one from multiple angles because I genuinely believe everyone watching this video needs to have Moss on 100% of their leagues this season. So I want to make sure that you understand how terrible his 14th round ADP is. First, we'll look at, is he actually good? If you look at player profile, you're like, well, no, he looks terrible. Awful SparkX score, a dreadful height-adjusted speed score. However, that's not the end-all for running backs. It would be nice if he was like Jonathan Taylor and had a 99th percentile speed score, but he doesn't. PFF put out an article going over the most important metrics for projecting running back success into the NFL. Their 6 metrics they include as the most important: their rushing grade, missed tackles per attempt, yards after contact per attempt, receiving grade, missed tackles per reception, and yards per route run. Moss is the only running back to finish in the top 6 in every single one of those metrics. And I know some of you are like, hold up, he's not a satellite back. Did he really do well in the receiving game? Why, yes, he did. He ranked first in yards per route run. You know what Singletary did last season? He had 4.7 yards per target. There were 48 running backs with at least 25 targets last season. Only 4 of them had less than 5 yards per target. So 4.7 is quite bad. I think people have this misconception about what Singletary did last season. He was bad in the receiving game, and they flat out refused to use him near the goal line. He only had 2 carries inside the 5-yard line compared to Gore's 11. And you might say, well, that was last year. Yep, and they've already come out and said that they want to use Moss in those goal line situations over Singletary. Now, let's consider his draft capital because they spent the exact same draft capital to get Moss as they did Singletary. So they're not tied down to be like, well, we used a lot more capital to get Singletary, we should probably use him. Nope, use the same. And that's because they fell to him because there are reports that they had a 1st or a 2nd round grade on the kid. So we've got a running back who ranks high in every important metric, can be used in both the receiving game and as a goal line back, doesn't need to come off the field on an ascending offense, and the team has already said that they want to feature him near the goal line, so there are the touchdowns, and he's going in the 14th round. Get out of here with that. That's absolutely absurd. And if that doesn't change, then he needs to be on 100% of your teams. That's not even risky. I always say, you don't want to be taking a player on every team because you're adding risk, right? But that kind of goes to a player in like the 6th round. You don't want to make the same 6th round pick or the same 1st round pick definitely in every league. The 14th round, if he's available in the 14th round of every one of your leagues, just take him every single time because that makes absolutely no sense. and it's just an awful ADP. So I don't get it. He's my top target in basically every draft because he is currently free. So those are my must-own running backs as of early to mid-June. Of course, ADPs are going to change throughout the summer. And since this list is very dependent on ADP, if a player starts to get really popular, then it's possible my take is going to change. So make sure you're keeping up with my rankings, targets, avoids at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that's the end of this one. Hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new? Thanks for watching.